The line, Talk 99.5. Talk995.com. Andrew Mclain, who.com. Real Talk 99.5 TV on the YouTube and everything else for ya. So yeah, Mike Pence. He's a real winner. That old Mike Pence. And again, these guys are just teaming up with Democrats. You know that old saying where it's like, you show me who your friends are, and I show you where you'll be in the future, or whatever the saying is. You remember that. You've been told that before, right, John Bird?
Yeah, all the time.
You'd show me your friend, which is not good because you're friends with me, so it's,
And guilt by association.
But you're older, so you ain't got that much time left, Your future is now.
Kiss my ass.
No,
What in the world?
I'm just saying, in the grand scheme.
In the grand scheme, okay, I'll give you that.
You are a very healthy 62-year-old in the grand scheme, and I think you'll probably last to 100.
Oh, please, Lord, no. Take me much sooner.
I'm saying, your luck, you'll probably make it to like 110. Which I'm going to need you to because, obviously being younger than you, I need you to last a very long time.
Well, you'll be 80, so.
We'll be hanging out in the nursing home together. It'll be a good time. You could be, if I'm 80, you're 102. And the difference between 80 and 102 is probably not that big of a difference.
No, the older you get, the closer. People always say that, but literally the closer your views on everything and all that. So.
Oh, okay.
Get off my porch. That.
Yeah.
That kind of takes over.
Oh, I gotcha. But anyway, they're basically friends with Democrats. I mean, that's what rhinos are. It gets hard to tell the difference between rhinos and Democrats, but they're one and the same, which is why you heard when, again, going back to this January 6th fund, this DOJ weaponization fund, you heard Gavin Newsom talking about their new proposed law, which was going to be, if this came to fruition, that they were going to impose a 100% tax on payments distributed to any J6ers in the state of California.
One thing that I think we're going to try to do with your support is tax 100%. Anyone from California that receives any of those funds, we want to tax 100% of those proceeds. And that's an action the state of California can take. It's an action we look forward to taking.
Oh, wow. What a grand idea. California taxing people to fix problems. 100% tax. That means they would take all of their money. So, I mean, if you're a J6er and you're living in California, I'd advise get the hell out ASAP. But here's the thing that gets me the most. It is that when it comes to J6ers, there are people that have been done so dirty, that have been ruined financially, that had been bamboozled. And I've talked to these people personally. I've talked to multiple J6ers and heard their stories from start to finish. And the way they were treated within a U.S. court system, no matter where it's at, but this in particular in Washington, D.C., should disgust every single American. They had been weaponized against. They have been, in some cases, wrongly imprisoned. They paid legal fees that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt. Their lives have been destroyed. They've been barred from future employment. They had their rights stripped away, their gun rights, their voting rights. What a win for Democrats, by the way, to take a chunk of Trump voters and strip their voting rights away. And when you hear some of the stories of these individuals, it's really heartbreaking. And so whether, they deserve money? I think they deserve some sort of compensation based on what they went through. And I think it should be a case by case basis, obviously. But for some of these, no amount of money is going to be able to give back to them what they had taken away from them. In a lot of cases. As a matter of fact, let me bring you one story. This is a J6er who's also a dad. He's a J6er that's also a J6er dad. He and his son both went to the rally on January 6th in Washington, D.C. And he took to social media to tell his story as to what happened to him over the course of 4 years. Now, this is before the weaponization. This has nothing to do with the weaponization fund. This is just simply the story of one J6er. Listen.
I've been asked if I'm the same person I was before January 6th. And no, I'm not. Life has changed so much. So many things have happened. It's been a long 4 years living in this truck. Couldn't buy a home because, well, I didn't know whether or not I'd be going to prison. So, stayed in the truck. Anyway, I was driving through Dallas, Texas, driving my truck, when I received a phone call from my daughter, who told me that my son was just arrested in Denver at his home. Of course, I immediately knew, January 6th. So the FBI agent, who by the way, his name was Nathan Garand. He wasn't really an FBI agent. He was a Colorado State Trooper moonlighting as an FBI agent to round up the Jan 6ers in Colorado. Well, I called him, I talked to him, told him where I was, said that I'd be willing to come into Denver as soon as I could get my company to work back to Colorado, and I would come and turn myself in. He agreed to it. I met him at the FBI building in Denver. I was immediately cuffed, searched, and taken to the federal building where I was chained up like a rabid dog and thrown into a cell for 7.5 hours before my arraignment. Now, I understand, 7.5 hours, that's nothing compared to some of the other guys. But it is taking my freedom away from me. It was humiliating. So, I was released and had hearings. And in my initial hearing, we were put on pre-trial probation. So, we had to be on probation before we went to court. And they had all kinds of things we had to abide by. But the most important to me was that my son and I were not allowed to talk to each other, to be around each other during that time. I mean, this whole process took a little over a year. And as far as I'm concerned, I could give a rat's ass. Somebody telling me I can't see my son. But my son, on the other hand, is a small business owner, or I guess I should say was, a plumbing business in Denver, Colorado. And he was very worried about getting caught if we did keep in contact and losing his business. I don't blame him at all. I don't. So we didn't talk for over a year. I didn't see him for over a year. I was sentenced, and then he was sentenced a couple months after me. The thing is, we both were charged with the same offenses. I got 3 years of probation, fines. He got the same, but in addition, he got 60 days in jail. And on September 30th of 24, the day he was to self-surrender and turn himself in to begin that sentence, he decided he wanted to go out on one last ride on his Harley. Feel the wind in his hair, feel the freedom. I can only imagine what was going through his mind as he was on that ride. Distraction. He'd never been in jail before. I mean, to lose your freedom, to be jailed, that's the worst damn thing. On that ride, he was hit by a truck. and he died. A whole year, my son was kept from me by the government, by the DOJ, by the Biden administration over a farce, over a scam, over lies. No, I'm not the same. I have nothing but hatred in my heart for the people that were involved in this. I lost so much. I lost my son. My daughter lost her brother.
So essentially, you had a situation where the DOJ targeted this man and his son, laid down the punishment, and sent his son for the same crime, but sentenced him to 60 days in jail. But in the meantime, in between the charging or conviction and the sentencing, they barred a father and son from talking to each other for a full year. A father and son, you can imagine, and this is where the justice system just absolutely infuriates me. These same courts that threw all these other people in jail in inhumane situations kept this father and son apart for a year. And as he stated, he said, I didn't care what they said. They weren't going to keep me away from my child, as most of us would feel. But the son said, you know what? Let's just let it play out. Let's not risk screwing all this up. I'm a small business owner. Maybe I can keep my life together to some extent after all this is said and done. So he doesn't get to see his son for an entire year. And the day before he is to report to jail to serve 60 days for this to finally be over with, he's hit by a truck and killed. So for that whole year, they took his son away from him. And at the end of that year, his son is killed. Never gets to say goodbye to his son. Never, for the course of a year, the last year of his son's life, never gets to tell his son he loves him. Never gets to check in on him, see how he's doing. None of that. And those are the things that have been done to some of these people that no amount of money is going to be able to replace. There are a lot of people that got hemmed up in that on that day that are good people. Good people that didn't deserve this. And what Donald Trump was trying to do here, even though everybody's against it, was trying to rectify what this government had done to its own citizens, its own good citizens. And so, no, I never had a problem with the DOJ weaponization fund. Even though you'll never be able to give that individual any amount of money that's going to fix what happened to him. And there's so many stories similar to that. These people had their lives ruined over what was ultimately a setup by the government in the first place to coerce Trump supporters into doing what happened on J6. It was a fraud. And now these are the stories that never get told. This is the damage. This is the collateral damage. It's not even collateral damage. It was meant to happen this way. So never fail to realize how evil these people are and how little they care about you. How little those in government care about you or what happens to you or what happens to your kids. They don't care. They never have and they never will. And one of the arguments that are made is that J6ers are violent people. That's the left always says that. If there's a J6er that happens to be released and goes out and gets rearrested, it gets highlighted and it gets amplified. I remember the New York Times editorial board published an opinion piece called "The People Trump Pardoned Are on a Crime Spree," and it was overloaded with smears against former J6 defendants, talking about, or actually highlighting, at least 12 people of the 1,583 J6ers that have been charged. 12 of them had been charged with new crimes since being pardoned. This includes protest-related scuffling, the alleged vandalism by Jake Lang. I don't know if you know Jake Lang. He's a J6er that does a lot of social media stuff, and he's one of these guys that goes out and burns Qurans and stuff. He's a very outspoken individual. There's one that was a violation of a family court order, and another one that was an alleged act of resisting arrest. So basically, a very tiny handful of pardoned J6ers have been arrested, and very, very few had been arrested for serious crimes such as burglary or assault. That's, if you break it down, that's an arrest rate of 0.75%, 0.75% per year, actually 15 months for the J6ers. This is several times lower than the arrest rate of average Americans. Roughly 2 to 3 Americans are arrested each year, and arrestees everywhere tend to be disproportionately male, as are J6ers. So almost 4% of adult males are arrested each year. This means that pardoned J6ers are far more law-abiding than the general population. And this law-abidingness becomes even more startling when you compare released J6ers to other released prisoners. So if you look at the Bureau of Justice Statistics, roughly 43% of released American prisoners are rearrested for new crimes within the first year. Over 60% of released prisoners are rearrested within 3 years. The average American ex-convict is over 53 times more likely to be arrested than the average pardoned J6er. So pardoned J6ers may be the most law-abiding cohort of inmates ever released from federal prison when you look at the stats. But yet, if you watch or look at the New York Times, they've got their piece called "The People of J6," or the people Trump pardoned are on a crime spree. None of it's true when you look at the actual numbers. But New York Times readers are not going to do that. Now, are they? They're not in the business of doing that. Nobody on the left is in the business of doing that. There's a man running for Congress, just to give you a prime example here, guy running for Congress in Florida. He is running for Florida's, 15th district, I think. And he's running for Florida's 16th district. His name's Mark Davis. He runs around selling 8647 shirts and merchandise, shirts and hats and car tags. He thinks he's creative. He posted on Instagram recently a video where he says, January 6ers don't deserve $1 billion. They deserve an effing noose. He says, and if I find out that any of you J6ers request funds from this little effing slush fund that Trump set up, I'm going to personally dox the living effing ish out of you. Have fun, he says. That's a guy running for Congress in Florida, of all places. Good luck to him. But that's the general consensus of people on the left and the way they've been brainwashed to view these average Americans that have been railroaded by the justice system. So until you know the real story, you may not understand why Trump's doing what he's doing, but it makes sense. 205-545-9950. Coverall RV Services coming at you right now. Coverall RV, my boy Dylan, out there working on your RV stuff. If you need an RV maintenance man, RV repair man, campers, pop-up campers, RVs, you got one sitting on your property, haven't been running in a while, you'd like to get it up and going, or if you need some minor maintenance, the beauty of it, he comes out there to you, man. You ain't got to drag it to him. He will come to you. There have been projects he's done where people have campers out on their hunting property and would like to get it fixed and up and going. Maybe you got some damage to your RV from Talladega a few weeks ago. Partied a little too hard, and you need Dylan to come work on it. He can do it, man. Could be cosmetic, could be electrical, could be leaky sunroof, could be whatever. But Dylan's been doing this for years, man. He knows these things like the back of his hand, and he'll get out there and fix it up for you. So call him at this number. Put it in your phone while you're thinking about it. 205-224-2268. 205-224-2268. Coverall RV Services. Find them on Facebook as well. So Dr. Oz is speaking as he's kind of the quasi press secretary at the moment. They just kind of switch him up day to day, and he's talking about a lot of different things, including the fraud that they're exposing, the president's recent physical that he had done at Walter Reed, which was exceptional, and a lot of other things. So let's dip into this just for a minute in case there's anything newsworthy.
The Director of National Intelligence shall have extensive national security expertise. What extensive national security expertise does he have?
Ma'am, you're asking me a question that's out of my lane. I'm so focused on making sure Americans are healthy that I have not been looking at what other agencies. And the edge, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Ross.
Yellow tie, go.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. All right. Okay. That was fun. Dr. Oz, just now you said that it should be surprising to people that personal care service attendant is the now by twofold the most common job in California and the most common job in New York. The U.S. healthcare industry has been growing rapidly, 7 to 8% annually. It's an estimated $5.3 trillion in growth. Healthcare accounts for about 18% of GDP. Why should people be surprised that in two of the most populous states in the country, a healthcare-related job like that would be a common job when it is, again, one of the fastest growing and continuously growing industries in the U.S. I mean, what's going on here? Like,
the primary difference between paying for a hernia operation and paying someone to be a personal care service is the reason it's concerning to us. If you're having a hernia operation, you have a scar. So I know you got something, and you have a doctor who is licensed, and you had it done in a facility that's also credentialed and has been inspected. When you get personal care services, it's an unlicensed person in an unmonitored setting promising they did something. That's a lot of handshakes and, finger crossing and hoping that it worked out okay. This is a problem that has been growing for years. It's just gotten now to a crisis mode. It is just difficult to imagine that it's twice as many jobs as anything else. It's not that healthcare jobs aren't important. Of course they are. But if we put guardrails around these programs, we'll allow them to thrive. I'm here because I love Medicaid. The president has already said he loves and cherishes Medicaid and Medicare. Medicaid in particular is the ultimate payer of last resort. We cannot allow these programs to be defrauded into a turmoil that they cannot pull up from. And so if we love these programs, we'll make the difficult decisions. Let me pivot from that just to describe what came out yesterday, which is the work requirement rule that our agency, and Dan Brillman and Capri Snap did a fantastic job writing this, dealt with a lot of states, but as you know, in the Working Families Tax Cut legislation, which I believe saved Medicaid. And the reason I say that is our actuarials told us we would be spending $5.4 trillion more dollars for this program over the next decade if we didn't deal with some of the legalized money laundering that was siphoning money out of the program. Part of the reason that this is so attractive to states is they could take money in ways that it was not designed to be used, paying people along the way so they didn't have to pay for it themselves. I get it. I understand why the governors did it, but it didn't align the president with the governors. With that law, we also had a work requirement rule. Now, what was that? The work requirement was based on concepts that date back from when Bill Clinton was president with the temporary assistance for needy families, when the Democratic administration said the fraud is getting so bad, the abuse so big in these programs, we need to clean them up. We need to get people to try to work. It's a path to prosperity. I believe, I hope you share this belief, that we're put on this earth with agency to change our future, change the country's future, make the planet a better place. We're put here to make a difference. But if you're sitting at home, which is true for the millions of people who are able-bodied on Medicaid, on average, you're spending 6.1 hours watching television or just hanging around. That's not why you're here. So as a path to prosperity, Congress very wisely said, let's get you back into the workforce. Let's require you to get free health care coverage, to be able to work for 20 hours a week, or volunteer to make up the difference if you haven't worked 20 hours, or get an education. Just participate. And so that rule came out. It's a, I think, beautifully written effort to try to define for our nation what your part of the puzzle is. Because if you are going to get something that of value from the American people, there should be some obligation, if you're able to. If you're not able to, if you're disabled, if you're, in one of the categories that are well defined in general, not able to work, it's different. But if you can work, you should get up and work again, because that's historically how it always was. In 1965, rather, when Medicaid was created, that was the deal. There were 11 million people in the program. We perverted that. Yes, sir.
Doctor, thank you. Since you're here speaking on behalf of the administration, part of the reason we're asking about the president's decision to appoint Bill Pulte to be the head of National Intelligence is it's been 4 hours and we've been asking the White House why he's qualified to do so. You're a heart surgeon or a heart doctor?
Yeah.
Would you recommend a patient go see someone who isn't?
You're asking the question with the premise that Bill Pulte is not qualified. I don't know anything about his situation, and I appreciate you want an answer. I'm not going to be the one giving it to you. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. This is Elizabeth with the Daily Signal. What are you doing, first of all, to remove any illegal immigrants who are still receiving Medicaid from the program? You mentioned earlier that's something you've been working on. And then secondly, Medicaid reimbursement for Planned Parenthood will resume July 4th unless Congress acts to extend the One Big Beautiful bill. As CMS Administrator, what's your message to Congress on that?
On the illegal immigrant side, I'll take one question at a time, if you don't mind. There's a lot of folks. We have, because we now can do it, a very straightforward way for the 44 states that don't have state-based Medicaid plans for us to be able to audit if the people that we're paying for are citizens or not. In the state-based plans, like I mentioned in California, and there's a few other states, Colorado, Washington, et cetera, Illinois, they have their own plans. So we have to now audit their plans. This is a challenge, and that's why before I came here, I met with a bunch of Medicaid directors from many states, red and blue, and they want us to help rebuild the tech infrastructure of Medicaid in this country. Imagine 50 balkanized programs. You spend $20 billion a year, $20 billion for tech infrastructure, and we're not getting our money's worth. So we're putting $200 million more because of the Working Families Tax Cut legislation. We negotiated, Dan Brillman did $600 million of in-kind contributions from the vendors to be able to get the work requirement done in an effective way. But I think it's the first step of a much larger national opportunity to fix how data flows. And one more bit on this, Medicare's billing system, which many of your relatives are using, was a 1979 era COBOL-based system. I don't even have engineers who know how to use that system. And so if you're going to really use cloud-based tools, if you want to use technology to help Americans connect better with the healthcare system, you have to update them. The president has been supportive of this, so we are upgrading the system. And my hope is that we can use the tech transformation tools of this government to bring people to work with us from the private sector. And every major tech company is a partner of ours. Now, we're pledging 700. Yes, go ahead.
Hey, I just wanted to follow up on her question behind me. If the president's in such perfect health, why does he keep going back in for checkups?
I think he likes the results. He does really well. He aces the test every single day, and I do actually believe that he's curious to make sure everything is going in the right direction. He's a very meticulous person in so many ways that are often underappreciated. But for him to want to know all the numbers and keep on top of them, it's the same reason he calls people at odd hours, because something's on his mind. He wants to deal with it. Yes, in purple.
I wanted to ask about the UFC fight here at the White House next week. The president recently invested in the parent company of UFC. Is it a conflict of interest for him to be promoting this event while he's invested in UFC's parent company?
I don't think the president sits in the Oval Office and makes individual investment decisions, but I don't know about that issue. But knowing him, I suspect someone else is making those decisions for him. But wait, go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Oz. The Obamacare subsidies expired earlier this year. What negative consequences have you seen, and do you see any policy adjustments that need to be made?
Let's talk about Obamacare. Let's take a step back. 2015, 16, 17, 18, 2020, there were 9 million people on Obamacare. 9 million. Today, it's more than 20 million. Like, what happened? What happened was we completely took the guardrails off. And I know this because I'm working in the agency that actually was told to take the guardrails off. And because there wasn't an earnest desire to keep track of whether you're appropriately on it or not, but more importantly, just get the number to where we all feel good about ourselves, we had massive increases of people joining the program. We believe that 35%, roughly, of the people that are using the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare exchanges, because they've never used the program once, they've never filed a claim, may not be legit. And that actual number may translate to, I don't know, 5-6 million people we could be paying premiums for because they don't have to contribute anything. So they don't even know they're getting it. These are people who have Medicaid, and someone, often a broker, is dishonestly enrolling them on in Affordable Care Act, or they're in 2 states at once getting full insurance paid for by us in multiple states at once. So we have evaluated these numbers. They're extremely concerning. There's a very strong effort by us. We actually made a rule 2 weeks ago that starts the process. We had tried to do this when we first came into office. A court enjoined us. They did not feel we'd followed appropriate APA guidelines, government guidelines. And so we redid it, and now it went back out again. But if you care about the ACA, then you'll want us to take the fraud out. And let me just take a step back. If we want you to go back to work on Medicaid, what's going to happen? You're going to start making money. As you make money, you're going to make enough money, you get above the poverty level, you're going to want to buy an Affordable Care Act product. Or private industry, commercial insurers are going to start using it. That's a good thing. We're getting America back up. They're getting into work, getting them into the stratosphere, building prosperity. So we want these programs to work together. But if you've got millions of people, literally, who are getting insurance that they don't want, they don't even know they have it, and we're all paying for it, that's tens of billions of dollars we're throwing away. That increases premiums for everybody. It drives affordability down. We're not going to tolerate it anymore. Sir, in the back, in the beard. Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose. We are happy to see you. I'm sorry, I will ask 2 questions because I'm Turkish American.
No, only one question. Doesn't matter. One question.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, the Turkish president, Recep Tayyip Erdogan, and American president has a good relations. And there's a report they are going to meet in Turkey and United States game in Los Angeles. Have you heard about it? And also there's a NATO summit in Turkey in July. So you're Turkish American. I don't know. Do you have any idea? Are you going to join? And what you're thinking about Erdogan and Trump relations?
I have no idea about these meetings. I've not been invited to anything. I suspect I won't be invited to everything because I've got a lot of work to do here. I'll give it right there. Go ahead. Good. Yeah.
Jordan Conrad's Gateway Pundit. Back to the illegal aliens on Medicare and Medicaid. Last October, you announced that you had found over $1 billion in federal tax dollars going to illegal aliens. How much has that amount increased as of today? And, it's kind of like fish in a barrel. Are these people being referred to immigration for prosecution and deportation?
The number has doubled from what I said last year. We're about $2 billion. The good news is that many states realize this is a problem, and they themselves have stopped doing this. Listen, it's the same basic story again and again. We as a nation make a decision because we're one people. Individual states have to take that decision and use it to the best of their ability. Some states don't do as good a job as other states. That's why we're looking to individual states for leadership, for better ideas to deal with many of these social problems that unfortunately begin to pile up over time, and they threaten the very very foundation of our social net that supports all of us. That's why this matters so much. If you quiz the vice president, he grew up in an environment where he saw people abuse this. I know that's the case of people who are in the task force right now, the Anti-Fraud White House Task Force. So there's a passion about this, and for good reason. I mean, the president calls the vice president Elliot Ness. He wants him, he likes the fact that he's taking this seriously, he's going at it, and he's doing what's best for the American people by making some tough decisions. One last question. Take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Oz. Back to Bill Pulte, but with the national security angle. The president has pushed very hard to renew FISA, Section 702. Expires in 10 days, just ahead of the World Cup. And there's this heightened threat environment with the war in the Middle East. We've heard all these intel agencies talk about the threat environment these days and how people can be very concerned about it. On Capitol Hill, you've had lawmakers today raising concern about Bill Pulte, and on the Democrat side, questioning his ability to carry out that role fairly and not weaponize it. What can you say about to allay their concerns, and can you also answer a question that was posed by Susan Collins about whether Pulte has a security clearance himself?
Ma'am, I don't know anything more about Bill Pulte than you do. I did not think that would be one of the questions that would even come up here. I hadn't even heard the news when I walked out. Okay, let me leave you with. We have one last question, but I do want to. Okay, go ahead, ask me. I'll come to you. I have a GOP question. What's your question? Very
Do you
quick.
have any medical advice for the Americans out there that are suffering from a very serious ailment called Trump derangement syndrome?
I am concerned about folks who have focused their entire life energy on dislike of the president. It's disheartening to see people lost in that way, but treating stupid is really hard, and it becomes a real problem. And these folks are off. Now, GLP-1s.
Okay, that's pretty good. Well, we got to get the break. What's interesting to hear him talk about Obamacare and the Medicaid fraud that is being used by illegals. He said that number has doubled as far as the amount of money. But the Obamacare stuff, and I've heard these stats before, that there's a large amount of people that are being enrolled in Obamacare that don't even know that they're on Obamacare. And so the government is essentially paying billions of dollars to these these healthcare providers for nothing at all, just wasting money. There's so much fraud and abuse going on in this country. It's insane. And it's, as we stated yesterday, you wonder why we're $38 trillion in debt. Well, there's you a big contributor right there. And the fraud is across so many different platforms. It's crazy. All right, 205-545-9950. Let's keep it moving right after this. Noto Roofing, N-O-T-O roofing.com, notoroofing.com. Yes, sir. Get with Noto, man. They're going to hook you up with the free roof inspection, complimentary roof tune-up, all thanks to me. Actually, it's not thanks to me. I mean, you finding out about it is thanks to me, but that's about as far as it goes. It's thanks to them. They're doing it, man. They're providing this service with no obligation and no strings attached. You can get your free roof inspection, complimentary roof tune-up, and hopefully you got no issues. But if you do, they're more than happy to fix it for you. If you don't want them to, it's fine. But with the way that weather, that storm system played out yesterday, with all the crap blowing around and stuff getting knocked out of trees and shingles getting blown off, you really need to call Noto at this point. So go ahead and call them up today. Tell them you heard about them from Andrew. And set up a day. Could be later this week, this weekend, next week, just sometime soon to make sure that you didn't suffer any damage from the storm. Because there's a lot of people out there that did. And I hope you ain't one of them, but you might be. Let's make sure of that. Call them 205-848-2299. That's 848-2299. Online, notoroofing.com. All their information is right there. And as John Bird stated earlier, there's crap blowing all over Seth's yard. It was the same way at my house, man. There's tree limbs and all kinds of crap in my yard.
Scary.
Yeah. I don't know. I actually was at home when it blew through my area. It had already calmed down once I got there. But it did look like a small tornado had rolled through town in my neighborhood as there was crap all in the roads. So, and there were some places that were producing hail. You got to remember, hail can do damage to your roof just as it can do damage to your car and everything else. So, get on it, man. Take care of it, cuzzy. Or otherwise, you're going to end up having a bigger problem down the road. All right, coming up next, what we're going to do is we are going to announce your winners for John Bear Plays the Guitar. That's right. You voted. You spoke. And now we announce. That'll be coming up for this Friday. All coming up in hour number 4 of The Line.